comes a point in every negotiation where there is one question on everyone's mind, and that is, who will make the first offer? Hi, I'm Mike Rogers of the Revenue Group. And when it comes to M&A, what happens is the buyer's doing his due diligence and is wondering, what's the least amount it will take to get this deal done? And the seller's thinking, I wonder what sort of offer they're going to make and if it's going to be worth all this trouble. See, the thing is, nobody wants to make the first offer. Why? That's common wisdom, so they say. But is it valid? No, it's not. Essentially, the buyer and the seller have the same fear when they're asking that question, who will make the first offer? The buyer's wondering if he makes the first offer, is it too high? Because would the seller have taken less? Because essentially I'm setting the floor and I'm not going to be able to go down from there unless there's some problem. But essentially I'm going to go up. If I'm the seller and I make the first offer, I'm afraid that I'm setting it too low, that the buyer would have actually offered something greater. So am I hurting myself somehow by making the first offer? That's my fear. So both parties dance around the issue of who's going to make the first offer. And this is because the commonly held wisdom is that the party that goes first loses. But is that really the case? Again, it's not. Contrary to popular wisdom, the party that makes the first offer has the upper hand in negotiations. And let me explain why. It's something called the anchoring principle. It's a psychological effect that biases the counterparty, the person receiving the information, with the numbers that he hears. So the opening offer helps orient the other person's perception of the value of what's being negotiated for. So let's assume that you're willing to at least try this position of making the first offer. How do you go about it? The concern is if you make an overly aggressive offer that is inflexible. Say you throw out a number. You don't know how the other party is going to react. And they could react negatively to the fact that they think you're a moron and you have no understanding of the deal. Because it's hard to know how the counterparty will react to your proposal, maybe they'll think it's absurd, it's easier to start with something that is more flexible, although it can still be extreme. So how do you do that? Cut. The best way to provide an anchor and to provide a range is by throwing out some relevant numbers. And in this way you don't actually address the problem, but you frame the perception of the value of the asset or the company or the thing you're negotiating for. Rather than placing firm offers on the table, the most effective anchors merely introduce relevant numbers. Here's an example. The CEO of a small company is out trying to raise money, and they happen to be approached by a much larger company that is interested in using the product. And they're so interested that they're actually in discussions about buying the company. They're in discussions and that question comes up in everybody's mind. Who will make the first offer? So the buying company, the larger one, says to the CEO, what will it take to get a deal done? Now the CEO could have responded with, I don't know what it's worth to you, but I have a number in mind, but we're right back to square one. Or they could have said a number, I have a number in mind and it is X, but you're kind of stuck because you're still at the same quandary you had before. You don't want to miss out. So here's what the CEO did. He said, a few months ago we did a fundraising. We raised X amount at a post-money valuation of Y. We are in the middle of doing a fundraising today. The pre-money is Z, and we're raising XX amount of money, which is being a post-valuation of Y. Furthermore, our forecast for next year's revenues are going to be ABC. But they do not include you as a customer. So if we add those in, so assuming we're to do a deal, it'll be much larger. But since that's not relevant to you because you would be acquiring the company, let's leave that out of it. Now, we know that companies similar to ours have been trading at multiples of X, Y, and Z, or metrics of such and such. which results would give a range of evaluation of some number. Now, what the CEO did was provided relevant numbers without actually giving an answer. He never actually answered the question. He just laid out some numbers. And effectively, he has framed the range of discussions, the negotiations with this buyer. So, rather than setting up a number, provide an anchor. Make your next deal a great one. Every deal is different, but the process for every deal is the same. Thank you.